You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, who have been telling Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com, and then definitely follow them on Instagram for all the information that you need, because I'm sure that's where you follow us as well, at oklahomahof. Let's get into today's episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn, your host, back with another episode. Charlie Neuenschwander on the podcast today. Headshot photographer, I would say, probably by looking at your Instagram, but also a lot of other cool photography as well. Like portrait photography probably would be the niche.
Yeah, probably. Portraits are what I do. Mm-hmm. I would probably say I'm a little bit more into the commercial space. I do a lot of kind of just creative shoots as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the commercial work I do isn't all that fun and glamorous, so I like to kind of mix it up with some personal stuff too.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're listening, guys, go to Charlie_Neuenschwander on Instagram and you can find some of the shoots. And I think recently I saw that when I first saw your shoots, I think it was the one you did with Maggie. Was it Maggie Carlo, maybe?
Yeah.
Did that before she left. Mm-hmm. And then I recently saw the one you did with Dr. Bob. And that was that's the day I reached out to you again. I was like, oh, great. I want to get Charlie on, let's see, because, such an awesome photo. And I personally love black and white as well. Mm-hmm. And I think people look better in black and white, maybe.
Sure.
I feel like that when I'm not a fan of having my photo taken, but when I see pictures of myself in black and white, I'm like, okay, I'm happy. Like that looks good. But growing up in Oklahoma, or how'd you get here? Tell me about that.
Sure. Oklahoma is my home. I grew up here. I actually didn't start taking pictures until age 30. A little bit of backstory. I went through a divorce, and one of the things that my mother thought I needed was a camera for my kids and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so she bought me a camera that first Christmas. It was a Rebel T3. It wasn't even like the fancy T3i, it was just a T3. But it was kind of the tool that really just kind of showed me what photography was, and I really developed an interest in learning more about it. I reached out, or I found some of the photography groups on Facebook. I reached out to a couple people. And kind of got some foundation knowledge, established through a couple of mentors, and it kind of just grew from there. I had worked at photography as a side hustle for about the last 6 years or so, and just this last fall, I finally went full time with it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
thank you.
Just naturally had the eye for it, naturally gifted with it then? Or did you seriously have a passion and thought, hang on, I'm going to really put a lot of time into this?
The second, yeah. Okay. I think, I don't know. Everybody has an affinity to something,
sure.
Some people are better painters, some people are better sculptors, but I felt natural with the camera, but I put tons and tons of work into it too. I like to say that I'm still putting work into it. I'm still learning, everybody should be if you're passionate about what you do, countless shoots. I had developed a relationship with a couple of modeling agencies here. That's where I kind of developed my real true passion for portraits, was just working with people. And I kind of learned that early on, landscape, astrophotography, that kind of stuff. I've tried all of it. I don't really care for some of that stuff, so I like to say portraits are my jam, and I've kind of gone down the commercial road with that, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's a way to make a living doing what you love.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? And I think for when you take a photo of the stars or you take a photo of landscape, right, you're the only one that's kind of getting the real feeling out of that photo when you see it developed or finished or edited. Sure. But when you take someone's photo and you see their reaction to it, like it's totally different, isn't it? And it's amazing when you feel great, like because they feel great, especially if it's their commercial headshot or something that's going to go on their website or on a billboard or whatever it is. So before we like super dive into the photography stuff,
sure,
tell me, like, you know, we grew up in Oklahoma City or whatever, and high school, and like what were you like as a kid?
So as a kid, I mean, I grew up in Piedmont, which is, you know, it was a small town. Now it's not so much anymore. But and my parents are both educators, and they work, you know, in town, just in Bethany over here, and. I went to Bethany High School, Bethany Elementary, you know, all the way through, and I ended up going to college studying biology, and I came out of that and went into healthcare, and that's where I spent about 15 years, was doing laboratory work and that kind of thing. So that's kind of a broad, you know, spectrum of my life there, but. I mean, as a kid, I mean, I just liked, you know, playing outside. I liked to find the, you know, creek that was nearby our house and go look for, you know, whatever was living in that, you know, that kind of thing. And I kind of developed you know, kind of a love of the outdoors, you know, kind of through childhood. And I mean, I still love to go hiking and that kind of thing. You would think I would be a landscape photographer, you know, based on that. But, you know, I'm one of those guys that can drive through Colorado and look at a nice vista and just drive right by, you know, just that's nice. But I'm not going to stop. I've got somewhere to be. So, I never really paid much attention to like photographs or anything like that. You know, when we got pictures taken, it was at the JCPenney portrait studio, you know, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was probably all I knew of photography at the time. But then once I kind of dived into the real meat of what this profession is, and started realizing what all was out there, I really, you know, got interested in it and started.
And like you said, recently now, this is your full-time gig now.
It is, yeah.
So that's a huge step.
Yeah, it really was. You know, especially, you know, the fall. You know, we're still in the pandemic now. You know, and so I kind of thought, you know, is this going to be a good move or not? But I mean, thankfully, I've, you know, been busy, and I've been able to, you know, provide for my family. And we've got food on our table and roof over our heads, so that's a success. Yeah,
definitely. and during the pandemic, I'm sure from a photography side of things, people probably are more conscious about what they look like on Zoom or what their profile picture is, right? So
sure.
Or website. They, you know, people like did a ton of website work last year because they needed people to buy from their website now, and then it weren't coming into their stores.
Sure.
Which I'm sure to your advantage, right? People need photos taken.
Yeah, I mean, there were doing a little bit of commercial photography. I've kind of branched out, and I do a little bit of everything. You know, I don't claim to be a specialist with like products or, you know, interiors or anything like that, but I've got a couple of clients that I've, you know, worked with that needed those kinds of things. And for a little while there were there was a dip in how many people were coming in, you know, to the studio. But now that, I mean, I think people are starting to get clever. You know, we all understand it's going to be here for a little while at least. We've all kind of figured out, I think, a way to work around it and work with it and keep everybody safe at the same time. You know, my experience in healthcare, I mean, I completely understand the science behind it. I get it. And my thing is, you know, if someone gets sick because of me, you know, I'm going to take that seriously. And I do what I can. I stay masked up in the studio or even on set. But you know, I want to provide as safe an environment as I can. You know,
yeah, definitely. And so you get that first camera from Mum. She buys this Rebel for you.
Sure.
You dive into it. You start taking all kinds of photos. And do you naturally gravitate towards taking photos of the kids first, and that's what brings you into the portrait side?
That was probably that was actually probably the first time I used my camera was on my kids.
Mm-hmm.
We had gone out to a nearby place to take just like an afternoon hike. It was actually Stinchcombe
Mm-hmm.
Wildlife Refuge out there in Bethany. And I took the camera with me, which I didn't normally do, but that particular spring we went out and I took some photos and I got them back and I thought, okay, those are nice, and then I wanted to make some of them black and white. So I started trying to figure out how to make, do all that kind of stuff. And, then I learned about photo editing and it spiraled downhill from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So to starting out, starting a business, right?
Sure.
Starting a hobby and then, getting into a hobby and then starting a business out of it, thinking I can make money from this. Or someone says, hey, can I pay you to do my photos? What was the process of building the business like? Did you do a ton of work for free first? How did you reach out to people? Because there's a lot of people listening who, cameras are great, right? Even our phones are amazing. And they might be new photographers and they want to learn about how they grew their business database and how you get to quitting your job and going full time and having these corporate clients. So what was it like early on when you're working full time, but also like turning your passion into, hey, this can actually make me, an extra $1,200 or whatever it is a month,
Yeah, I think because I had no idea what I was doing, as far as like marketing or anything like that. So really, what I did, I just wanted to shoot as much as possible. I really wasn't thinking about money at the time. Mm-hmm. Early on, that was probably the least of my concerns, but once I started shooting more things and kind of figuring out what I liked to shoot, I would focus a little bit more on that. Mm-hmm. And naturally, my family were my first subjects, that kind of thing. And then, I would offer to take pictures of friends and stuff like that, for their family Christmas cards or something like that. A lot of work for free up front. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's an important step, that everybody should understand that's totally necessary. Nobody is going to pay you if you don't have any work to show. Mm-hmm. So building that foundation and learning your camera kind of along the way really kind of helped set up for the first person that came along and said, hey, how much do you charge? Yeah. And it was probably like $50 that first time. Right. And it's progressed and it's a progression. Somewhere along the way, I started picking up magazines, and I really liked the work that was in there. I thought, I want to do something like this someday. I had, with a stroke of luck, I reached out on a cold email to, it was Slice magazine at the time, but it's 405 magazine now. Mm-hmm. And the editor replied back and gave me a shot. And she said, I'm going to give you a couple assignments, to test you out on. Yeah. And I've been there for 6 years now. So it's been a lot of fun. Like, in kind of looking back on that early work too, you can kind of see like a progression of like where I've gone, like just as a photographer too, like the most recent stuff with Dr. Bob, and if you compare that to the stuff I did early on, it's just like, it's night and day. Yeah. But working for that magazine was kind of what turned me on to the commercial world. I liked doing things for businesses, and that, if that makes sense. Like, I'll do private clients every once in a while. Like, I get a few seniors every now and then. Mm-hmm. I don't market them on my website. It's just not something that I, prefer to do.
Friends and family type thing.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But every once in a while, somebody will come along and they say, hey, we really like your style. Can you shoot us, or whatever? And I'll do it, But the magazine work really led to, what I liked about working for other businesses and kind of seeing, because I feel like there's more results that you can see elsewhere. So like I've had a couple of billboards, magazine, prints and magazine, that kind of stuff. Seeing your work in print is probably the most satisfying thing you can ever do.
Yeah, photography by.
Yeah, exactly.
The byline.
And so that was a lot of fun. And building that network over like a 5 to 6 year period, was crucial for me.
Yeah.
I feel like the magazine kind of helped solidify somewhat of a reputation. It has been monumentally helpful in kind of, getting more clients that way.
Right. What was that first shoot that you saw yourself in the magazine?
It was a shoot so there's this old, like cog railway, I think, out in El Reno. It's like one of the original trains from like when the town was settled or something like that. Anyway, they still had a piece of that train left over, and I think one of the original operators or something was still alive at the time.
Yeah.
And we were doing a story on that, and they told me to go out to El Reno, take some pictures of this train and the person that knows the story behind it and that kind of thing. And it came from there, and the rest is, as they say, history.
It's kind of cool, right? Because you get to do kind of what I do, right? You go out and you meet someone you've never met before, and you get to take their photo, and photo is such a point in their life. Like Dr. Bob, for example, like he's stepping down from his legacy and everything that he's done for the history, right? And you get to be the one that takes that photo, and you get to be around him and learn from him and hear his stories. Like that's really, really special, isn't it? I mean, the photos are great, obviously, but like that time that you get to spend with people. Yeah,
that's a great point. And that's something that, most people probably don't really think about too, is, especially, if you're just a senior photographer, you meet a lot of great people, but doing assignment photography, for publication, I've met so many people and seen so many things that I didn't even know were in this city, like I love this city more and more every time I go out and do something, and to photograph, somebody for it, but, because there are so many interesting people out there. Even in your own backyard, you don't have to go to LA to find somebody worth photographing. There's so many cool things here, and they're all out there. We just got to find them,
Yeah. And through the magazine, you get to have access to these people, right? And, and you get the address, and you're like, hang on a second, like this is literally down the street. Like, what is there? What interesting is in this building?
Exactly.
And then you walk in, and you're like, whoa. Yeah. Okay, now I get it. Like, have you met Chip Fudge yet?
I don't think I've never heard the name. So
he's like a huge car. He's a real estate guy in town, but he loves classic cars, and he has a huge car collection, kind of off Chartel, and it's under 24-hour security. But no. I mean, if you don't know him, nobody knows.
Okay.
Working on getting him on the podcast to tell his stories, but before COVID, like he was traveling around with his cars, and just, I mean, the type of guy who has classic cars but drives his classic cars.
Okay.
Not like the garage queen, like tucks them away kind of thing.
Sure.
And he's got an event space down there, and you can go and have dinner in his. I mean, the garage is not like your typical, garage. It's done very well, and the cars are all lit up and they look great, and you go and have dinner down there. But yeah, I mean, no one hardly ever knows that place exists as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got a friend that is kind of along the same lines. His name is. Well, I don't know if I should name drop, but
he's got a sick spot.
Yeah, he's got like an Aston Martin collection, but I hate to, I wouldn't want to mention names without permission or something like that, but like I met him through 405 as well, because for a little while I was doing the fashion for the magazine, and the stylist is his wife, and so that's how I kind of got to know them. And I've done a couple of like private events for their family and that kind of thing, and they live in one of those kind of loft apartments there on Broadway, and down there in Automobile Alley, and very, very cool people, people that you would never know that they live up there, and they live in like a museum, with all their collection of stuff, that they have. But it's amazing.
Yeah, I love it, right? I mean, I'm lucky enough to do the podcast, and if we're not down at Bedford's recording, I'm somewhere else and in someone's unique space, and it's you just never know, right, until you're there. And the city's so amazing, and the state has got so amazing spots. So when you get that first shoot and you get that buzz, right? Like I've seen my picture in print, like this is my work now. And after a few more, like you get phone calls, can we do this? Can we do that? How does that progress? How do you just mentioned fashion stuff as well. This stuff that, high fashion is big and where does it go from there?
So I mentioned early on that, I kind of developed a relationship with some of the modeling agencies here in town. I've been shooting for them for, pretty much the entire time that I've been, holding a camera. I say fashion very loosely, in this market, right, because, there just isn't a fashion market. I don't call myself a fashion photographer, but a lot of my work is probably fashion,
Sure.
But we're not shooting for high-end designers or anything like that. We're mainly, what I'm doing is, giving, models their portfolio. They're going to work with other photographers too, and that kind of thing. But I'm one of the stops that they make, usually. And that to me has been kind of the creative outlet. I've kind of gotten to know fashion a little bit more. I've studied it a lot. I'm not an expert by any stretch, but that's really a place where you hear like you want to learn the rules of lighting and photography, and then so you can break those rules. And fashion is probably the place where you can break those rules. And I've learned a lot of my knowledge of lighting. A lot of my techniques and stuff have been formed on those shoots, and it's just a great way to really get your creative flow going. When you see photography, fashion photography, you're right, it is a little more out there. It's a little more, Sure.
It's not like you mentioned, once you know the lighting basics, you can then be a lot more creative, push the boundaries, try something new, and it's just trial and error until you find
Sure.
your style, isn't it? Your Instagram's got some great photos on there. The creative side is awesome. I love the fashion stuff, and I'm sure for you as a photographer, you get to just let it all out and try something new, right? Rather than like a headshot, hey, just one typical portfolio shot.
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioned, kind of finding your creative, style or your voice or whatever. I've kind of landed on a couple of light setups that are probably the most used, in a lot of what I do. Mm-hmm. And even now, I'm still kind of tweaking that, every once in a while.
Yeah.
So through all those shoots, I have never felt the pressure to deliver, something amazing, because there's a lot of room for error in
Sure.
that genre and creativity, I guess. If I was shooting a campaign for a company that was hiring me to shoot like that, then I would dial it down a little bit and just go with what I know works,
Right.
that kind of thing. But that's why we do all the creative stuff, is so I know it works. Like I feel like in those 5 years of practice and stuff like that, I feel like I probably shot so many different ways. I could probably handle like any lighting situation, like even the lighting in here, I could find a way to make that work, and, and sometimes it's not about like making it look amazing. It just needs to work, because that's what the client wants, and, you gotta be willing to, do some creative stuff and maybe lose money on stuff every once in a while. You want to pay a makeup artist to come in, you're not getting paid for the shoot because this is for you.
Right.
But you might want to pay a makeup artist. You might want to pay somebody to come in to do wardrobe styling, that kind of thing. And, that's when you really can kind of flex your muscles and, no pressure, just do whatever you want to do. And it really helps.
It's reinvesting in yourself, right? Reinvesting in yourself, your business, constantly learning, because the great thing about photography is it's all evolving all the time.
Sure.
There's guys who shot, we know mutual friend Jared, he loves to shoot on film.
Yeah.
And he looks back at all the, yesterday we did a shoot in a 1950s camera, and he's like, don't move.
Right.
What do you mean? He's like, if you move, it's going to be out of focus, and we have one shot at this. Oh, okay, thanks. I'll try not to blink as well.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's great that okay, even if you do spend some money, that's reinvesting in you, and you'll know for a client coming down the road that you're adding more value to them because you put in the practice and learned something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things. Like I really like photography. I do a lot of cool stuff, but I don't have the time to go shoot like I want to. I originally got into photography through golf and sports photography, and I'd go take my camera, play golf, and shoot mates and stuff. Tell me about like your process when you do shoot. Like, do you have a home set? Do you go to the set? Like, how does that work? And then, your style, are you kind of like a, machine gun style with it, or are you just like more, one or two here and there and then go through it?
It's almost all of the above, but so we'll talk about set first. So starting out, my studio was my living room, and every time somebody would come over, I would move couches, move tables, everything out. I would just have an empty room. I actually had to cut about 4 inches off of the standard 107 foot backdrop, so it would fit in my living room, and so that's the space that I was working with. But I made it work. I mean, I had a great window in that room. That's really where I learned direction of light and stuff like that. Like most people, I started out using natural light, shooting outside mostly. But then when I was in that room and I only had one direction of light, that's when I kind of realized, okay, I can turn this person and make it look like this. I can turn them this way and it looks like that. Right. That evolved. I didn't like people I didn't know coming to my house and where my kids live, that kind of thing. So I knew at some point I wanted to have some kind of office space, studio. I finally came along. I started renting places by the hour. And then about 2017, I had worked with a makeup artist here in town several times. She has a house in the Plaza District that the bottom floor was like her business, and she had a spare room. I reached out to her. She was like, I'm trying to decide what to do with this room, either make it an office or something. I was like, can I have a studio there? And we talked, and we actually ended up collaborating on a lot of projects, both commissioned and, just kind of creative stuff. So I worked out of that bedroom for, about 3 years. Yeah. And then in March of this year, through a kind of network of through a network of other people, I found this space downtown, just off of 13th and Broadway, and it's kind of exactly what I was looking for at the time. It's more of an industrial space. It's got a lot of room, a lot of high ceilings, that kind of thing, and so that's been my studio for almost a year now. I like having a studio. It gives me, a place to kind of, if anything, have a place to keep all my stuff. So
a set that's already up, and not have to break it down, rebuild, move everything back into the front room, and couch so the kids can watch TV.
Yeah, I mean, you'd spend a day just doing that, and even when I was renting, by the hour, if I had something that I wanted to use 4 lights on, I'd have to bring all that stuff with me, and that kind of stuff. But and then as far as shoots themselves go, it kind of depends on the person. Like headshots, it's pretty mundane, pretty just kind of deliberate, shooting. When I get a model in there, I'm not a spray and pray, type of person, but if they're moving, I'm shooting. Sure. And it's calculated. It's not just shoot from the hip and hope you get something. It's I want to capture as much as I can, because these kinds of shoots, we're going to shoot 1,000 frames, but we're going to use 20. So you want a variety, and so that kind of thing. I shoot tethered to a computer, so I can see exactly what's going on. It makes the workflow a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a great story in there, a great lesson in there too, because starting a business, you're working full time, you make your house work, right? You make what you have work. Absolutely. Until you find, and then you collaborate, and then you finally get your own spot. That's just the progression of, of all these people listening that think, I want a photography studio now, and they haven't even got a paid gig yet.
Right.
And you're just like, there's just a natural progression. I mean, it would have been great to like have the money, right? I'm sure to buy a studio, but then you kind of miss all the key steps of learning and growing and getting used to, you know, that entrepreneurial time and the growth of starting a business, right? You miss all those key lessons.
Yeah. I mean, most, you know, small businesses probably start in somebody's garage, you know, or something like that. It's definitely a growth, you know, rite of passage, whatever you want to call it. There's just a progression that goes through that. And if you have, you know, if you're set up and you have the situation where you can afford your studio and stuff starting out, great. That's awesome. More power to you. But like you said, I mean, there's things that you learn along the way that you can't get anywhere else by like starting, like hitting the ground running. I mean, you got to start with a walk, you got to jog, and then you can run, you know, but the studio thing was, you know, that was several years in the making, you know, and I feel like I got lucky. It's a combination of luck, planning, waiting, being patient, and then just kind of working with what you have and making that work.
Yeah. So from a photographer standpoint, and you know, you mentioned you're always practicing, always learning. Who do you look up to? Do you have any mentors? Because the great thing is there's plenty of people on the internet that shoot amazing portrait photography that are in great magazines or whatever.
Sure.
Who do you kind of, you know, have your eye towards?
So I'll start with some local people that have kind of been mentors to me. Chris Little was one of the first people that I ever connected with. He's not super active on social media, but he's out there. It's J. Christopher Little, if you want to go to his like Instagram or something. But he's the one that probably helped lay my foundation of understanding of how a camera works.
Yeah.
You know, what's aperture, what's ISO, what's you know, the shutter speed, and how do they all work together, you know, that kind of thing. A couple people up in Tulsa, Kevin Camp and Tony Lee, were instrumental in kind of learning like how to work with models, how to you know, shoot fashion, like lighting, stuff like that.
Tony's Instagram's awesome.
Oh,
his
yeah.
shoots are amazing.
Oh, for sure.
That name rings a bell because I've seen his stuff and just like, whoa, I've got to get up and talk to this guy.
Yeah,
he's been at
it for a long time, and he has like a lot of his lighting is the same from shot to shot, but it's one of those things where it's like that's his look. Yeah. It works. Nobody else can shoot that, you know, and that's Tony.
Right.
It's people that, you know, on a national level that I like to follow. Kind of another small market but doing big things guy is Clay Cook. That's a guy that I've purchased maybe a couple of his tutorials and that kind of thing, and he had a great one just on like the business side of things, you know, and so that was kind of helpful. He's also on a level that I'm not at yet, so it's just another thing to kind of aspire to, but some of the obvious ones, I mean, Annie Leibovitz, of course. Her lighting is probably what drew me to portraits, and learning how to kind of make it look like a painting. And I don't know why, I just love it. And it's just one of those things, like, I wanted to figure out how she does that, you know. And then there's a couple others out there, you know, that are, you know, national, you know, level people.
Yeah.
Art Stryber is one of them. He's like one of the top celebrity photographers. But I mean, just you can set your sights, you know, high and kind of, you know, I don't compare myself to those people because, you know, they've been doing this for probably as long as I've been alive, you know, but, you know, it's always nice to have, you know, something that you say, I want to do that someday.
Yeah, I aspire to be like that. Or to be able, you know, travel around the world getting paid to do this stuff for a huge publication or whatever it is. Like one of the guys, and can I kind of got into like my own photography more kind of like during last year, and a guy from the UK, David Yarrow. Have you seen his stuff? He does some crazy stuff, and I only saw his stuff because they were auctioning off one of his shoots for charity, and I was like, oh, this guy, and he has a YouTube channel and just started it, and his shoots are amazing.
Yeah.
You're like, how do you get to do that? And he was like an accountant or a lawyer or something, and he just like picked up a camera super late and gets into it. That's really cool.
There's another guy like that. His name is Howard Schatz. He was like an ophthalmologist, like MD, for a long time, and then when he retired from that, he started taking pictures. And I mean, he's worked with celebrities. He's worked with, but you should check him out too if you never have. Just completely amazing work. Very almost like contemporary art type, stuff that he does. So, check him out. It's never too late to pick up a camera. Like if he could be a testament to something like that, or, he made a career out of being an eye doctor, and he's a professional, renowned photographer now, so. It's never too late.
Definitely. So as far as like your business and kind of like where you want to go and your roadmap to, like where do you think, or like what are your eyes set on? Like, when you were first starting, it was like, okay, it'd be cool to get a studio. Like, where is it now? If we are allowed to travel, do you want to get paid to travel? Like, what do you see your business going?
Sure. I would, aspiration for me at this point is, I would love to be able to, work across, state lines and stuff, doing either, editorial work, or commissions for, national brands and stuff like that. I don't, see myself, doing like advertising campaigns or anything like that, like anytime soon. It would be nice. But something more in the portraiture realm, like, Forbes magazine or something like that, they're like, hey, can you come take a picture of the CEO, for this publication that we're doing, or this story that we're doing, stuff like that. I would love to, just kind of work more on like a national brand scale, and that kind of thing. I'm still learning, and that kind of stuff too. So, it's possible. I don't even know what the possibilities are, once you get to that level. Right. But being from Oklahoma, I've kind of written off the possibility that I'll ever photograph a celebrity, but you never know. Unless one comes through town or something, Yeah. I did photograph Vicki Lawrence one time. That was cool. But that was for a magazine article here, so that was just kind of a chance, assignment. But kind of working on more of like a regional thing, maybe campaigns for something, who knows?
Yeah. Open to all suggestions.
Sure,
which is great.
Absolutely.
I'll finish with this. If you get to shoot, I don't know, if I'm gonna ask you pick one person who you'd like to shoot, dead or alive, and their setting. And if one person's not, we can find two, and if you can't split it, but who would you like to shoot, dead or alive, and then where would you like to shoot them?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I may have to think about this for just a second, but some kind of big philanthropist, or like somebody that's made like a huge impact on society, like Greta Thunberg or something like that. Somebody like that, somebody that's doing good, or something. Of course, there's actors, actresses that would be fun to shoot. From everything that I've learned, a lot of those shoots are like 5 minutes long.
Come in, get a few clicks,
like
and
run and gun,
yeah.
That kind of thing. But I think it kind of depends on who's shooting it too, because some photographers get the whole day with them, that kind of thing. It kind of depends on who you are, but that would obviously be a lot of fun. But I don't think I can pin like one person that I would love to shoot. There's so many interesting people out there. I want to meet, somebody, down the street, or it could be somebody, in the national spotlight too. I don't know.
Yeah. There's some great, is it People of New York and some other publications have kind of done something similar where we'll just walk the streets and take people's photos.
Sure.
And like get a little caption on their story. And then that's so interesting. The sad thing is that nobody walks in Oklahoma, right?
Right.
So you can
I mean, there's nowhere to walk.
Now.
I mean, our city is so spread out and there's no sidewalks hardly anywhere. But I actually tried doing that one time. I tried doing the whole like stranger portrait thing.
Yeah.
Not for me. Like I would much rather like them find me and like let's schedule something.
That awkward moment of, hey, can I take your picture?
Right.
What? Why?
I tried that one time. I didn't like it. I got like one person in. I was like, nope, screw it. I'm not doing it. Not for me, man.
That would make for a great video.
It probably would. Yeah. But had I maybe had a couple other people with me or something, it probably would have been a little bit less awkward, but it was just me like hanging out like at the park, and like I thought about, man, the optics on this don't look good.
Right.
I'm gonna go get back in my creepy van and get out of here, but it's
Is it, just come to my mind, is there anything that you like outside of portrait photography that you haven't done yet that you just like, paid or not paid, I just want to go shoot this?
So outside of portrait photography,
it could be within portrait photography, but like not specifically like you mentioned the president stuff. Could be someone totally different.
Oh, sure. One thing I haven't done that I would like to do is shoot more musicians.
Okay.
I think my style would lend really well to it. It's like one of those things too, like how do I get in touch with them? That kind of thing. Like who's in charge of making those decisions and stuff like that. And musicians are, especially local ones, they probably don't have a ton of capital, for marketing shoots. So, a lot of it's like, they promote on Instagram and stuff like that, and that's their marketing, but, I'd love to do like an album cover or something for a music group, either I grew up loving rock and roll, just like some metal bands and stuff like that. I would love to shoot like either a metal band or even any kind of music group, honestly.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. And there's all kinds of different ways you can shoot musicians too. Just kind of wrap something into the context of what they do, or do something completely offhand of what they do. Who knows? You just got to present them in a way that gets people to buy their music, and I'd love to try that sometime. Yeah,
definitely. Well, mate, this has been a pleasure. Really, thank you. Thanks for coming down to the Bedford studio, which we have now, which is amazing that they've put this together. If you're listening and you listen to previous podcasts that we've done in Bedfords, we have a completely new set now, and you should definitely go watch it. So I'll post the videos to this stuff up soon. But what's your website? Where can people reach out to you if they, if there's a business listening that, hey, we want some commercial work done? How do they reach out?
Sure. So it's charlieneuenschwander.com. You can like Google like the first 7 letters of that, and it should pop up.
A lot of E's and U's.
Yeah. But yeah, Neuen is like how my last name starts out. This is Charlie with an IE, and I'm on Instagram. I don't use my Facebook all that often, but I'm on Facebook too. But yeah, my website is usually where I try to direct people. But I should pop up if you start typing in Charlie photography in Oklahoma City or something like that.
Awesome. Well, I'll post that down below in the description for people listening. That they can go click on it straight away and check out your work. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. And for everyone listening, we'll catch you next episode. Cheers. This podcast was presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, who've been telling Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. Follow them online at oklahomahof.com and definitely on Instagram at oklahomahof. Catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.